Hey guys, so as you would have seen in the thumbnail, this video is going to be about creating a cute crossbody bag that you can gift any woman in your family. They will really appreciate it because it's a useful piece of accessory. So before we get started, I'm just going to run through with you guys the materials you're going to use. Don't worry, I'm gonna have the list of materials out in the description so you guys could remember what you're gonna need when you have time to go source the materials. Now, with that said, let's get started. You want to get your hands on the bag pattern. Now, normally when I'm making my bags, I wing it by making the shape around my phone. But for you guys, I actually took the time to create a pattern. You can get the pattern in the PDF link in my description as well. So you can go there, print out the pattern, and have it for the project. You also want to get your hands on some leatherette. So I guess you can go to your local upholstery store and source yourself some leatherette. I know there are a couple of upholstery stores in Trinidad, so whichever is the closest to you, find yourself there and get yourself a piece of leatherette. If you're only going to venture to make one bag, then you may only need half a yard of leatherette. If you want to make more than one, let's say about 2, you can get yourself 1 yard. It's going to be enough, but get yourself some leatherette. The next thing you want to get is some scrap fabric to make your bag lining. Now this is actually a top I made a few years ago. I don't wear it anymore, so it was in my scrap bin. So I'll be using this to create my lining. This is also to show you guys you do not need to go out there and put yourself in any additional expense for this project and purchase fabric to make the lining. If you have a t-shirt, a shirt, a dress, a skirt, a pants, heck, a pillowcase, a bed sheet that you no longer use, you can actually use those materials to create the bag lining instead of having to go out there. Because let's be honest, coming Christmas time, you're gonna start to do some cleaning up. So rather than throw these things you don't want anymore, these fabric materials, use it to create the bag lining. The other things you want to get, you can source at your local craft stores. This is a slider buckle. This is what we're going to use to make the bag strap adjustable. You want to get your hands on some snaps. I call them snaps. I do not know the actual name. If you do, let me know. You want to get yourself some half circle rings. I would be using these from off of this old handbag handle. So if you have an old bag with a handle and you know you don't use the bag anymore, you can source your rings from off of that old bag. Get yourself the usual stuff: a piece of chalk, your straight pins, and your scissors. Make sure you have your sewing machine as well and the corresponding thread to go along with whatever color leatherette you would be using. I just want to say this very quickly. If you don't have a sewing machine and you want to try and you want to create this bag, get yourself some really good glue. I would recommend the E600. It is a very strong glue. It's a bit on the pricey side in the sense that I think it's about like either between $30 to $60, somewhere around there is the costing of that glue. But if you don't have a sewing machine, that glue would be a good substitute to help you put the bag together, and also still use needle and thread to hand stitch the areas that you glued to make sure it's properly well reinforced. So with all that being said, let's get started. Fold your leatherette in half. Take your bag body pattern and gusset pattern and pin them onto your leatherette. Make sure you place in the end of the gusset marked place on fold onto the fold of the leatherette and cut out pieces. You should have 2 body pieces for back and front and the gusset piece when you're through cutting. Take your bag flap pattern and place it on a piece of leatherette and then cut that shape out. For this piece, there's no need to fold your leatherette in half. Now let's cut the pieces for the bag lining. If you're like me and using a piece of clothing, cut it apart and create 2 pieces of fabric. Take one piece of those 2 pieces you just created, fold it in half, and cut your gusset piece just like you did for the first part. Now open out the same piece of fabric and cut out your bag flap piece as well as the pocket piece. Now take the next piece of fabric, fold that in half, place your bag body pattern, and then cut out the shape. So at the end, you should have 2 body pieces, a gusset, a bag flap, and a pocket piece. Next, you want to get your pieces ready to put together. And you'll do this by transferring all the midpoint markings on the bag body pattern and on the flap pattern of all the pieces you just cut out. Now for the back piece of the leatherette bag, what you want to do is mark the points for the line where your flap has to be placed. You're only doing this for the back piece of the bag, right? Once you have drawn your points, take a ruler and just connect the points with a straight line. That way it's easy for you to know where the flap has to rest. Let's work on the pockets. As you would have noticed with the pocket pattern, it has seam allowance added. So when working with the pocket, fold in your raw edges and you want to stitch or stick it in place so you have a nice neat pocket. Then center your pockets on the front body piece of the inner lining pieces that you have. Pin that in place, then either stitch or stick the pocket into place. Let's put together the bag lining pieces. So you want to attach the gusset to the bag body pieces. Line up the gusset midpoint mark to the body midpoint mark, right? Make sure your pieces are right side facing right side for this one, okay? And just follow the shape of the bag body, and as you go along that shape with the gusset, pin it in place, just like what you see I'm doing right here. You're gonna, once you finish, make the full shape, you're gonna do the same thing for the other body piece of the lining. Line up the midpoints and then just pin in place as you go along the shape of the body of the bag. Once everything is pinned in place, you can either stitch or stick everything into place. Just keep in mind, if you're sticking your bag together with glue, just remember to go in with a nice hand stitch around the area that you glued, just to act as a reinforcement. Let's quickly work on the bag flap. What you want to do is take your bag flap lining piece and place it on top of the bag flap leatherette piece. You're going to make sure it's wrong side facing wrong side. So the right side of your lining pattern is facing upward. Once you've done this, you can either stick or stitch in place. Now that we have our bag flap in order, let's attach it to the back piece. So you want to line up the midpoint of the bag flap to the midpoint of the bag flap line. Once you've lined up those 2 points, you're going to take your pins and pin the flap into place. You can either run a stitch or use your glue and stick the flap into place. Now that the bag flap is attached to our back piece, it's now time to put together all the leatherette pieces. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the bag lining pieces to the leatherette pieces. You want to take your gusset and you want to line up the gusset midpoint to the bag midpoint. And you're just going to follow the bag body shape with the gusset and just pin that in place. Take your other body piece for the leatherette, line up the midpoints, pin in place, and just continue going along the shape of that body piece and pin that into place. When you finish do that, take it to your machine and run a stitch, putting everything in place and leaving it there. Again, if you're not using your machine, use your glue, and again I would encourage you to please go in with your hand stitching to make sure it is properly well reinforced. Yes, the bag is coming along nicely. So what you want to do is just turn your bag right side out so we can continue working with it. Let's attach the snaps. Take your piece of chalk, mark underneath the bag flap where the snap is going to be attached. Then you're going to mark on the snap itself that's going to be on the top. Place it at the top, press it down onto the bag to make a marking. That marking is where the other snap piece is going to go. Once you have it in place, take needle and thread and stitch it into place. Once you've done that to that piece, do the same for the piece that is going onto the flap itself. Now fold the raw edge of your leatherette bag and the raw edge of your bag lining. So place your bag lining inside of the leatherette bag, fold in the leatherette raw edge and the bag lining raw edge, and then pin them together in place. Piece of leatherette 2 inches wide, 5 inches long. And then you're just going to cut that in half to create 2 strips. We're going to take those strips and place them inside of the rings that we're going to attach to the bag. Now I have already placed my rings onto my bag. What you want to do is take yours and place it between the bag lining and the leatherette, just like what you see I'm doing here. Then you're going to take a pin it in place for when you have to stitch around. Do the same for the other side. Take it, place it between the bag lining and the leatherette and pin in place. So when you're going to stitch or stick everything into place, it's going to be secured right where it needs to be. Please pay attention to what I was saying earlier about folding your raw edges for the both pieces and attaching. Let's start working on the bag strap. Now, because our bag strap is going to be an adjustable one, we need to make sure that the strap we are cutting out is 70 inches long and 1 inch wide. If your material does not give you a flush 70 inches length, then you're going to have to do like me and cut a multiple amount of strips 1 inch wide and then join them together to be able to get that flush 70 inches. Okay? Now, in my case, for example, I needed 3 strips to stitch together to create a flush 70 inches. If you don't need to do that, kudos to you. Less work. Now that everything is stitched into place at the top part of the bag, we want to attach the straps now. So what you want to do is take one end of your strap and place it into the ring. Please pay attention to how I am placing the strap and on what side the strap is going into the ring from. Once you've placed it into the ring, take that same end and place it inside of your slider buckle. Once you filter that end through the slider buckle, like what I'm showing you right here, you're going to just take a pin and pin it into place. You're going to take the other end of the strap and then you're going to also place that within the slider buckle. Again, pay attention to the direction I'm placing the strap in. Once that end of the strap is in the buckle slider, you want to take that end now and place it into the other ring on the other side of the bag. Again, pay attention to how I am placing the strap into the ring. It is very important if you want that strap to be well lined off proper. Stitch all pinned areas. Woohoo! Gift finished! I just added a little detail just to make it pop, but other than that, I hope you guys had fun. I know it's a bit lengthy, but I really wanted to make sure I helped you guys through in creating this piece. So have fun making, guys.